buttons changed. All the buttons changed. Haha. All right. Hey everybody, it's Forbes Riley, and welcome to the Forbes Factor, one of my favorite hours of the entire week. And you guys always ask, where in the world is Forbes Riley? Well, I got to tell you, first of all, it's been interesting how fast the year's going. For those of you tuning in live, it is now the 5th month out of 12. I swear to goodness, tomorrow's going to be Christmas, and that scares me so much. But I got great news, very excited. For those of you playing along, in October of 2024, which is a little bit a ways, my feature film, my action-packed Western, is debuting. I play the bad girl in that. It's going to be at the Paris Hotel, and I've got a whole bunch of free tickets to give away. So please make sure that you check in with my social media, say hi. I'm back on Facebook. That took about 3 months, so I'm excited to say I'm a little more social than I used to be. And I just booked the lead in a new movie. Careful what you wish for. You just might get it, and you just might get it all at the same time. This particular show is brought to you by one of my trainings that I do live on Sunday called Pitch Secrets Masterclass. Make sure that you check that out live on Sundays. I love to spend about 2 hours reviewing people's pitches, giving secrets, tips, and nuggets, and just digging in. Now, before I get to my first guest, who is a renowned health and wellness expert, I have some fun news. And again, there's a big difference if you're catching my show live or you are watching on the recording. Either way, the information is valuable. You're going to want to meet my guest. But a little insider thing is that because I had a recent accident almost 2 months ago now in Iceland, I think you guys heard or saw on my Instagram that I was in a bus that went flying through the air, crashed down on my side of the van. My daughter was behind me. My husband and son were strapped in, but my husband, all 200 and something pounds of him, fell on me, tore my shoulder. And when I opened my eyes, my face was looking through an entire sheet of glass. The window had shattered, and I was looking at the black asphalt with the yellow lines on it right underneath me. By some outrageous miracle, and however the universe works, and you're cradled by your angels and whatever you believe in to be true, I didn't lose an eye, suffer traumatic brain injury, or tear up my face, which is my moneymaker, which is my life. And that's not really fair to say. I'm sure I'm much more than my face, but I appreciate having a face. And I appreciate that my daughter was fine. There are people apparently who've experienced similar accidents that don't have as good an outcome. So I took that, as I often do, with the concept of if life happens for you, not to you, what do I do with that? And my husband, as many of you know, is a professional bodybuilder. I'm in the National Fitness Hall of Fame. I'm there not because I'm fit, but because I can sell more than most people can. And I used to take great joy in saying that I'm not the fittest person in the National Fitness Hall of Fame. And then something happened post-accident. It is now, technically, today is 47 days that I made a decision and said, what scares you most? What are you not being honest with yourself about? And I guess during COVID and after COVID, we all went back to the gym. I went back to the gym. I have 2 muscles that are probably fitter than any muscles you've got. My right thumb and my left jaw, right here. Yeah. I would sit in the sauna and I would text and I'd Instagram and I'd socialize. Then I'd go out there, I'd do a little bike, a little chit chat, and I'd go home. I spent an hour at the gym. At least that's what I would tell Joshua. I was there for an hour. I didn't do anything, but I was there. And as he went to the gym and came back while I was building my company and working so hard, I'm assuming that by osmosis, the more he goes, the better I look. I kind of woke up out of all this thinking, I think I've been lying to myself. And it dawned on me that a lot of you are doing the same thing. I talked to somebody recently. I was at an event. This woman was there. She's in her 60s. I get it. And she's like, oh, yeah, I got a little pouch. I have a trainer, but I hate going to the gym and I don't really do what he tells me. And I'm like, so basically what you're saying is that you want something, but you're lying about it because you're not willing to do anything to get it. I'm sorry. I guess we could all just sit at home and pray for money. I don't know. I like the idea to pray part, but I don't really know that it just falls out of nowhere. I guess you could just go buy a lottery ticket. Although that doesn't seem to end up very well for lottery winners. So what's the answer? Put the freaking work in. That's what the answer is. And that's what the universe just like whispered, didn't whisper. I got hit on the head. Put the work in and stop lying to yourself. If you want certain outcomes, you got to do certain things to get them. Whoo, did I get this message like in spades? And every day for the last 47 days, with one or two exceptions, I have been going to the gym and not working out for an hour. I'm hitting it hard for an hour and a half, and I'm using Joshua's training system. Go to www.joshuafitness.com if you want to see how my husband built back from his accident. He was in a horrible motorcycle accident. In 8 months, he won the Olympia. So you want to know what he did? Go to that website. I do his training every day to build my front, side, and rear delts, to work on my chest and back, to work on my infraspinatus and my trapezius and muscles that you don't even care to know the name. I'm going to do a bikini competition. Now, let me share something with you. At 42, I'm going to do something none of the other competitors, or very few competitors, ever do. At 42 years of age, I pushed out 2 7-pound twins. I had a 65-inch waist. Do you know that 65 inches is how tall I am? Yeah, I had that. I got a little bit of belly stretching. Yeah, I don't wear bikinis. I have no desire to wear a bathing suit. But do what scares you most. You want to live life to the fullest? I'm going to introduce you to a man who understands that, embraces it, and I think is a great guest to share for my journey and for all of you, because you don't need to do a bikini competition, but I will tell you. Now when I go to the gym, and last night I was there from 9 to 11:30 at night because I didn't have time in my busy schedule, and I realize that on June 29th, about 64 days from now, I'm going to walk in high heels and a bikini. Everyone's going to look at me. If I don't put the work in, I can't expect to have great results. So, Mr. Russ Yeager, do you know a little thing or two about what I'm talking about?
I know a little bit about a lot what you're talking about. I've done physique contests. I have twins. My job in that was a lot easier than yours. And
yes.
And I've been through some challenges. I had, hip surgery a week ago. So, but we're still here. We're both rocking, and we never quit. So excited to be on. Appreciate you having me today.
Well, I've met you in person. I've had a chance to see you. You have a beautiful physique. Let's go back from the beginning, from the end here. What happened? Why hip surgery? What did that was caused from?
Yeah, so I remember being, about 30 years old, and I was running on the treadmill in one of my studios, and my left hip just kind of gave out, and I didn't fall, but I almost did. And I did what any, and I did what any, smart man would do. I ignored it, and it started happening more and more. And then it finally started really hurting bad. So I had an x-ray, the chiropractor said, I got bad news. You got basically no cartilage left in your left hip. I tried doing, prolotherapy, PRP. We didn't really have stem cell around back then, all the natural stuff. Finally had a hip replacement full hip replacement at 41 years old on my left hip. 8 days after surgery, you can't make this stuff up, Forbes. I was making protein pancakes, of course, and I dropped some on the ground, and logically, I knew that I should have just waited for my wife to get it when she got home, tried to pick it up on my own, clean it up, hip dislocated, worst imaginable pain I could ever have. I figured they put me in the ambulance, they're pumping me full of, morphine or whatever. I'm a big guy, I'm 225, 6'6". I'm like, I can't feel anything.
You're you're 6'6". Wow.
Oh yeah. Then I figured, that they had to do surgery again. Nope. They gave me laughing gas and shotgunned my leg in and out. And it was unbelievable, really traumatic. I'm very, big on mental toughness, positive mindset. I was depressed for, a couple of months. I ate pizza for 13 days in a row, feeling sorry for myself on the couch. Finally got it together. It took a long time. It took about 3 to 4 years for that hip to start feeling good again with a lot of rehab. And about the time that one started feeling good, the right one started hurting. And so I've been in pain for about 20 years consistently.
Can I ask how old you are?
I'm 49. Yeah, I'll be 50 this year.
Oh, wow. That's really young to be dealing with all that.
It's young. It's just early bone on bone. So I did resurfacing this time, which is actually, I wish I had done it on the first hip. It's a longer recovery process. It's going to take about 6 months for full recovery, but they call it the athlete hip replacement. So apparently, after 6 months, I can wrestle or play football or, downhill snow ski. I'll probably never do any of the three, but, basically it'll be like a real hip. So, I got my cane here, I'm hobbling around. I haven't lifted weights in 2 weeks, which is the longest, since the last time I did this hip surgery, and it's hard, but I'm having to learn and practice patience.
Wow. And wow. Actually, somebody wants to say hi to you. Joshua just came home and he wanted to wish you well. I know you've met him in person. Joshua? Come here for a sec. Mom, we're live on radio, babe. I don't have a whole lot of time. I just want to, he popped by and did his little thing to say hi.
I love that guy.
Come say hi to Russ. Come.
Hey, Russ.
What's up, Joshua? How you doing, brother?
I heard a little bit of your story
We
there.
met him at Chris Crohn's.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
so,
man. I mean, you got, we all have our stuff, man. Your comeback was way more significant than mine, bro. So
tell everybody who's listening just what happened. Just say hi. You're on Rational Radio right now.
Oh, am I?
Yeah.
Well, I had a motorcycle accident in 2020, so I broke 4 ribs and shattered my ankle bone. And I sat in a wheelchair for about 6 months. And I kind of like you, I was very depressed. I made friends with the lizards out in the front porch here in Florida. So, but one day and this was during COVID, during 2020. So when all the gyms were closed, so when the gyms actually opened up on the first day, I showed up. Even though I couldn't walk, I was able to still work out through the way my method of working out. So I rebounded and actually competed at Mr. Olympia that year. And I didn't do that great, but hey, it was a start to my comeback. And then the following year, I got 4th and 5th, and then I won the Arnold. So it's all about how bad do you really want it. And so good for you that you're back and you're positive, right?
It's interesting. You guys are the similar age.
Yeah. Well, he's 50. I'm 4 years younger.
You're turning.
Yeah, don't add it any years. You got to meet him.
Well, I just wanted him to say hi. He also mentioned protein pancake, and it's a good idea.
I heard that. I like I didn't know about protein pancakes until I got with her.
Yeah.
If you haven't tried stacked, you got to try stacked. They're my favorite.
Oh, that's like a pre-made one?
It's pre-made, yeah. I'm lazy in my cooking. And I always say they taste almost like the real thing, except that literally the night before my hip surgery, the only restaurant in the city I went to a guy's like world renowned in Columbia, South Carolina. So there's Cracker Barrel. So I had pancakes at Cracker Barrel. I'm like, okay, the stacked are good, but they're nowhere near like the real thing.
That's so funny. I just make it from scratch. I take an egg in my powder. I don't really, here's the thing. It's kind of fun to eat what looks like a carb at this moment. I've been 47 days carb free, sugar free, which is ironic because, there's all kind of sugar and carbs and things that you don't realize. As I'm really, really, really reading labels, it's hard to get away from that unless you're going to live on olives and steak. But you know what? So let's now go back to the beginning. And guys, thank you for letting Joshua pop in. One of my all-time favorite people just got home from the gym. He's been quite an inspiration for me, but not until really recently. And Russ, hearing your comeback and your determination, let's rewind to little Russ and figure out, does he even think he's going to be in the health and fitness industry? And why did you start all this?
Yeah, I started it like I guess a lot of entrepreneurs I started to solve my own problem. So I agree, I'm 49 today, and probably the biggest compliment, I could get is you telling me I have a beautiful physique considering, who you're married to. So I really appreciate that. And, so I'm 49, I run 3 businesses. I have 3 young kids. I keep 6-pack abs 365 days a year. And I don't say it to brag. I say it for inspiration because I don't have great genetics. And I love to eat more than anybody. I've literally
that 13 pizzas in 13 days kind of thing was like,
Yeah, I like pizza a little bit. So to put it in perspective, if you remember Man vs. Food, the guy that did all the eating challenges, one of them is Big Pie in the Sky in Atlanta, which is where I live. And you have to eat this enormous pizza with 2 people. You have an hour, and him and his partner failed. Well, I've won that challenge. I'm half proud and half embarrassed on that. So,
I love this.
So I grew up chubby, Forbes. I'm 6'6", so it's not like I was massively obese, but I had the spread around my stomach. I wore the white t-shirt at the pool, so thinking to try to hide it. My buddies all seemed to have the flat stomach, the abs. They'd tease me. I don't think they were trying to be mean, but it really bothered me. But it's like we have these moments in childhood that really, create a make or break, path depending on what we decide it means to us. And so I remember being, 11 years old. My dad's got the brand new VHS camera, right? Before we had cell phones, the giant thing. He's taking home movies. He's like, Russ, introduce yourself. And I was a shy kid, believe it or not. I'm like, my name's Russ. I like soccer. I like basketball. I love my dog, Rudy. Then I pause, drop my head, and I'm fat. And both my parents look at each other, awkward silence. And finally, my mom breaks the silence. She's like, Russ, you're not fat. You're just husky. And she said that because, I had to get the husky pants going back to school. I hated that word. It pissed me off so bad. I wish they just call them the fat pants. And I decided my mom was smart. I used to think she was trying to make me feel better. I think she was trying to piss me off. She was very aggressive and very had high standards, and it worked. And I decided right then and there, Forbes, I was going to figure out, we didn't have internet back then, but they like the guys in the magazine. I wanted to be a guy with abs. And so I tried running on my own. I saw my dad run, my body didn't change. Again, I didn't understand eating at all. Got into lifting weights, late teens, early 20s. And I was like, oh, I liked it, these muscles. And I got in okay shape, but I got into the workforce, got my undergrad master's in accounting. So I'm a CPA, working for one of the big firms, traveling, late night business dinners, drinking and partying in my 20s. And finally at 27, I'm like, dude, you never did what 11-year-old Russ said you're going to do. And I made a decision. I made a commitment. I hired a coach. Worked for one of the top natural bodybuilders in the world, a guy named Skip LaCour. We're still friends today. He's 60 in his 60s, like shredded still. And I entered one of those before and after 12-week contests. And I said, I'm a guy, like, if you tell me what to do, and I'll go all in. So he said, just follow this step by step, train me like a bodybuilder. I went from over 20% body fat to 5%, won the contest. Got sponsored by a supplement company, got to actually go to the Arnold Schwarzenegger Classic as a sponsored athlete for the supplement company that, put the contest on. And people that work at the gym were like, dude, what happened to you? Can you help me? And I knew this was what God put me on earth to do, quit my job as a CPA. And that was 22 years ago. Never looked back.
What a beautiful, profound story. I love the idea that you were open to coaching and that I love that the little 11-year-old Russ was like, there really is. And I said this in the beginning about the sum of the obstacles you overcome. And I will tell you, I was an ugly, awkward, introverted little girl with a big broken nose and braces. And for 2 years of my life, I couldn't talk. I had a finger in my mouth. I had no friends, and is not the person that you're seeing today, but is the reason I'm the person you're seeing today. And I think that gives so many people hope. I'm going off this summer, by the way, to spend a week at UCLA with 2,000 kids from all around the world to inspire them, just to be able to dream big and to say that, what, if you peaked in high school, you peaked too soon. So if you're the awkward, goofy kid, now you have a very successful life now. Talk to me about the misconceptions about health and fitness that people have that you've really seen over the years.
Man, there's a lot of them. I mean, one of the biggest, and it's getting way better, but it's still there, is lifting weights, and resistance training. It doesn't have to be weights. I mean, you showed me at Chris's event with your little spinner, how hard that was. But resistance training, working to increase your lean muscle mass. Understanding that is in my opinion, and research backs this up, the most important exercise, not only because it is the only thing that builds strength, builds muscle, your joints, tendons, ligaments, all that, bones, all that stuff as we get older, protects that. Also increases your metabolism, right? The more muscle you build, the more calories you burn.
I'm gonna pop in there, and I would love to address this, because I think what I'm so excited about is I've never done this before, guys, in terms of the whole lifting weights and really being very consistent. But I started this year 14 pounds heavier than I am right now. I was 33% body fat. We did a DEXA scan because Joshua was at 9. I was at 33. I was afraid I was going to be 50-50. Yesterday, I just did it. I'm older than I've ever been, as we all are. I just celebrated my 64th birthday. And in the last 5 months, I'm now down 14 pounds and I'm 24% body fat. Oh my God.
That's awesome.
It's like higher muscle, lower. I was like, oh, wow, this worked. And what I've been doing for, like I said, for 47 days, and the needle on the scale didn't move very quickly, by the way, but I can certainly feel and experience the difference. I've never lifted weights consistently the way I'm doing. I'm using, and I really should just give you Joshua's program. Joshua just breaks it out in a way that's different from what most people do. We all have the same muscles, but we all don't know how to use them. And did he ever talk to you about what he does?
A little bit, and I'm definitely interested, because I've been old school. You lift weights and it works for your physique, but as you get older and you get into your 40s, 50s, 60s, which, by the way, when you said something about 42 earlier, I was like, I didn't think Forbes was younger than me, but I would believe you're 42. So
and I love you for that. Believe me, I look at 64 and go, if that's what 64 looks like, bring it on.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm very blessed. And I know you and I have not really had a chance to talk to each other a lot. We see each other at events. But one of my mentors very closely was Jack LaLanne for 8 years of his life, and his wife, who survived him. He passed away at 96, about 10 years ago. She just turned 98. And she looked at me as I crossed over the 60 mark, and I was having a little bit of a thing. And you all hear negative stuff. Oh, that's when my body started to go this. And all I heard was negative. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm there. This is sucky. And she looked at me, and I'm grateful that she did. And it's my responsibility to pass this on. But she showed me the picture of her on the cover of a book in a leotard. And she said, how old do you think I am in that book? And I'm like, I don't know, like 40, 45. She's like, I'm 62. Don't screw up your 60s. They were the best years of my life. Now, here's what's interesting. I don't have a choice. This is my age. So I'm going to make it the best years of my life. As brought to you by a 98-year-old woman who still lives on her own, who still, she literally, when you ask her how she's doing, she's like, I can still do 10 jackknifes. And you're like,
I love it.
That's who does that. So I have a lot of responsibility, but all of a sudden, just so between you and I, the thing about Joshua is that first of all, he's a graphic artist. He took the skin off your body. And for the first time ever, and I hold a lot of certifications, really shows you visually where a muscle begins and where it ends, what it does and why it does that. And one of my biggest confusions for me was, do you know where your chest muscle begins and ends?
I would think right underneath your chest and up into your shoulder, but I don't know.
Well, so that's it. You want to see the graphic of this. Number one, there's 3 chest muscles. There's the up, middle, and lower.
Right.
You train them at 3 different angles to target each one. And they start on your, right here, on your sternum.
Yep.
And they go out, not to your shoulder, but to the outside of your humerus, your arm bone. How do I know this? Do this, Russ. How do you think your arm moves? Because it's attached to your body right there. It doesn't feel like it is. And I was like, damn. So when you do certain chest angles, it's because that's how you are made. The other one that just delights me to no end, he does no push-ups, no pull-ups, no overhead presses, no sit-ups, no squats, nothing heavy on it ever on his back, which is why we could talk about hip health. And it's like, dude, this is really smart. And then I see some 20-year-old trainer having a 55-year-old woman do plyometrics and jump up on a box. And I'm like, that woman's knee is going to give out. She's going to be crippled for life. And you're responsible. Nobody needs to be jumping up and down. They're not kangaroos. We're not made to do that. We're not made to hang by our arms. Our arms are not attached to our abs. So when you swing your legs hanging by your arms, why are you hanging by your arms? It just tears your shoulders. So a lot of this education to me has now become so important because I'm doing this competition with literally my MRI says I have a torn infraspinatus and I tore my bicep tendon. I'm still lifting his method. And I can only do that because there's no overhead presses, no overhead pull downs. And I know it's, for those of you who are listening to this, it's a little too technical, but get this, guys, 64-year-old woman over here. I didn't really understand it either. I dove in and said, I would like my body to have some shape to it. And all of a sudden, 47 days later, Russ, it's like a miracle. I have a shape. I have I have all muscles back. And I'm like, oh. And you don't get big and bulky as a woman. Now you train men and women. What's the biggest problem you see that women suffer from?
Yeah, first of all, that's awesome what Joshua and what you're doing. And it's so important because, when I first started, it was all look good, right? It was all, body. Now as the older I get, the more, body's still important, but the more, health and longevity and feeling good catches up and gets more and more important. And, I've pounded my body with the weights and the strength training. So to, be able to get those results, and I think the one thing stigma, I think probably in the back of my mind and other people who, you got to lift, heavy weights and do the squats and all that to build, you're not going to build enough lean muscle, right? That's the concern. Well, look at your husband, that kind of defeats that. So I think it's awesome.
Here's a fun one. Here's a little quiz for all of you who are like, you're going to geek out on this. Do you ever do, the machine that your lat pull down? Do you do those?
Of course. Yeah.
Well, here's the crazy thing about that. Just think about math. Your lats, this machine has you pull straight down, right? That's what you do. Well, your lats don't go up and down. Your lats go like this at a 45. He'll show you on your back, start at the back, outside of your shoulder and go into the mid of your spine.
Yep.
So why wouldn't you, very smart and very gently, take one arm at a 45-degree angle, exactly the way the fibers run, pull on a weight, and pull it into your back the way the muscle, oh my God, this is the only lat exercise he does. And it's like he's got a massive V. And when you look at that, you're like, no one ever taught me that. And it's the thing about what he has got me doing and he put out there to the world is it's insanely logical. And the last one I'll give you, because when I look at Ronnie Coleman and some of the big bodybuilders who are suffering, who've had amputations, who are destroyed their body, why would you put, if you're working on a squat on your thighs, why would you put all that weight on that precious spine of yours, on your shoulders? And you're like, there's a safer way to do that same exercise. But like, you're right. Back then, muscle guys, I don't care, I'll just do heavy stuff.
Yeah, people don't think about it. You're so right. And, answer your question on the feet. I do work with men and ladies. I mean, definitely the being scared of bulking up is one, which you said that, like, that's not going to happen. And I think that's gotten a lot better. And also, like, with muscle, more and more doctors, which is really cool, are doing research and showing, we know that having too much fat increases your risks of, heart attacks and heart disease, cancer, stroke, all that stuff. But also there's dementia. They're showing like lack of lean muscle is just as bad. So muscle is really good for us. I think the biggest thing I see is like working with ladies I work with a lot of ladies in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and a lot of them have given up. They think that they can't change. And look, there's, obviously going through hormonal menopause changes, like it changes things. I can't personally relate to it, but I've seen it and it makes it harder, but it does, I guess the message, if there's a lady listening like that, that's in her 50s, 60s, she feels like she's tried every single diet. She's failed every single time, and it's impossible for her at this point and wants to give up. I'm telling you, it's not, because I've seen it firsthand. And it does, I always tell people, like, your metabolism is what it is. And, if you and your husband start together, he's probably going to get results really quickly, and it's going to piss you off, and it's not fair. But if you just find a plan that's sound, that works for you, and you're consistent and you stick with it, and if you hit a block, you're willing to be coachable and tweak through it. Like, I've worked with a lot of ladies in their 50s and 60s that completely changed their physiques, completely changed their confidence, energy, health. And then my biggest goal for my clients is to help them achieve their biggest goal, first of all. But then what I always tell them is, my biggest goal for you, my personal goal, is that we don't only get you in amazing shape. And the cool thing is, it doesn't take that long. Like, I can work with somebody give me 6 months. I can help them reach or exceed their physical goal. Now, if they need to lose 80, 100 pounds or more, that's maybe a year or more project. But for the most part, 6 months, we can transform your body. But more importantly than that, I want to help them instill the mindset, discipline, skills, and habits so that they can keep it for the rest of their life. Because what good is it to get in shape if you can't stay in shape? I'm proud of winning that contest 22 years ago. Way more proud that I've stayed in shape for 22 years. That's the hard part. So you can do it. It doesn't mean it's easy, but it just takes a decision, a commitment, a plan, and, getting some coaching and accountability.
I discovered the big difference for me was to really have a goal. I never had a goal before.
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine what the goal would be. And I think you're saying that about a lot of women who give up or feel it's because you don't know, when do I stop? Like, when is, and not that there needs to be an end date. I got to tell you, the day after my competition, I'm going off to shoot a movie. So I'm not stopping, but it will be a definite marker. Like, I want to get to, I'm willing to push to that moment. So do you help them set a goal? Like, a competition is ridiculous. That's like out there, but maybe not. When I looked at how many women in their 60s are bodybuilding anymore. And when I went to the Arnold, there were not a whole lot of competitors in the over 60 category. And I thought, if I could just at least not fall off the high heels, I could do this. Now, what was your mentality when you went into your contest?
Yeah, my mentality is, first of all, I'm a big believer in making it a lifestyle, but also having short-term goals.
Right.
Because if it's just a lifestyle, there's no deadline, there's no sense of urgency. You're 100% right. And I don't compete anymore, but I have little goals for myself. Okay, I want to, get really shredded this summer. I want to put on muscle. My wife did this 29029. Jesse Itzler started this, where you climb the equivalent of Mount Everest in 36 hours. And I'm like, oh, I got to do that once my hip's better. So always having something, to have a goal. And in terms of, my mindset when I did my contest was that I'm going to get the abs, and then I'm going to win, because I don't do anything without the strong intention of winning.
That's crazy. And what was your peak week like? What did you end up, how was that final week?
So it was, again, I was following the old school bodybuilding. I got my carbs super low, not to zero, but super low. It's brutal. And part of me wants to say everybody should do a contest to experience, because there's nothing like it.
I'm kind of thinking they should. I really have this thought process.
I try to be careful about putting in everything on people, but if you have a desire to, I think you should. It creates a tremendous amount of discipline, as you're seeing. The last few weeks is just brutal. I would work out in the morning, I would have my scoop of whey protein, force myself to, and this was what was cool and this shows the power of the mind is, I trained, and I'm not saying this, I don't train this way anymore, but it was a style of training where it's all about strength, 4 to 6 reps, heavy, heavy, heavy. You got to increase every week. And that definitely builds strength and muscle. There's downsides to it on your ligaments and joints and not having the variety. But even in those last few weeks, I would be forcing myself to get stronger. It made no physiological sense, but I could do it because of the mind. I had a deadline. But then after that, I felt like I could barely stand up, moody, hangry. And the last week, I was basically down to no carbs. And then the last, 3-4 days, the traditional carbon up, eating oatmeal and rice. And it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm getting to eat. And then, depleting water, sodium, potassium, all that good stuff. And then, I did okay on the contest. I realized after a few contests, after the first and then so that was the physique, online thing. And then I got into natural bodybuilding, and my first show, I was like 210 on that physique contest. I got down to 195 on my first bodybuilding show at 6'6".
Oh my God.
I know. I took 3 weeks off of work. Literally, I had all this extra vacation.
Do you have a photo that you could share? Because, for those of you who's listening to us on Pandora or Amazon Music or Spotify, we love you guys, or iTunes, but we are visual. You can see the recording of this.
Yeah, I'll find that while we're chatting.
Yeah, you can see this on YouTube and on my Facebook. I love posting and sharing visuals. And come on, who doesn't want to see Russ naked?
I'll find that while we're chatting. It's not
while
naked,
you're as I said that word naked, apparently you, my friend, have written a book called Live Longer, Feel Better, and Look Great Naked.
Yep.
So ladies and gentlemen, oh my God, look at you.
So that was, let's see. This was this was the original transformation contest. So, I did the, I wasn't
wait, I have to take a screenshot of this. I got to show Josh. Really, don't go away. This is so classic. Look at you. Your abs are insane. Genetically, what are you talking about? You got like killer genetics.
I do have underneath, but I could be 400 pounds if I ate how I wanted to.
How did you even know those abs were there?
I had to find them. I didn't. And so, and then
now wait a second. Wait, before you leave this, you have a lot of before and afters. Talk me through some before and afters I'm seeing on your desktop here.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. That's, that's what shows results, right? Can people actually get results? This is one that's really awesome.
Well, talk to me about Sarah's journey for a second. We're looking at her because you see these on Instagram all the time, but you don't really know the truth. How long did that take, do you think?
Do you want people to get? Are people guessing, or am I telling you?
Oh no, I'm actually asking you the question. I couldn't even imagine.
What do you think?
Oh, I don't know. Over a year.
It took her a little over 6 months, 6, 7, 8 months.
Wow. So consistency. How often did you have her work out?
3 to 4 times a week in the studio, and and then she did some extra cardio.
And her diet was pretty much what?
Her diet was, my whole philosophy on nutrition is, number one, we got to get you a plan that will get you the results you want, right? Lose fat, gain muscle, transform your body, but also one that you can live with. Because I believe if you can't do your eating plan forever, it's no good, because you're always going to be going back and forth. And most of the things are unrealistic, for long term, like keto, super popular, no carb, and it works. But my question is, like, how realistic is it for you to never eat a carbohydrate again? If it is, cool. If it's not, it's not a good plan. So really what I focus on, Forbes, is getting your calories, understanding your calories, how many calories you're putting in your body. You have to understand that to a degree. And then getting your protein, because, a lot of people talk kind of the whole macro thing, right? Getting your macros, it's macros is just the 3 types of calories: protein, carbohydrates, and fat. I'm very big on simplicity and execution. So if you get your calories right, and if you just worry about calories and protein, you only got to worry about 2 numbers instead of 4 numbers, simpler. And if you get your calories right in protein, and again, protein's important, it's the only macronutrient that's going to build that lean muscle, then then carbs and fat can't get out of control. And if you wanted, that's my whole framework.
Wait, let's see another one while you're talking, because I'm very intrigued. And I see your book cover there too. We want to see that.
All right, let's see if I can talk and get stuff at the same time. I'll show you this real quick. This is me last year at the pool. It's kind of a goofy pose, but this is at 50, at 49, or I guess 48 last year. So I still have the abs, not contest shape, but You know,
You look
there's no reason-
spectacular. I mean,
no reason to walk. Oh, this is one of my favorite. We'll get a dude.
Oh my gosh, I'm seeing this. Wait.
So this is Papa Ralph. This is just last year, and he's 60 years old, and
Right.
he's a roper out in Montana. And he said, he goes, man, I just got to keep up with the younger guys. I need to be fit and healthy. What about body goals, Ralph? Nah, I don't care about that stuff. But now he's not too disappointed to, have a six pack at 60.
He looks
again,
amazing. How long did that take?
That took about 6 months. Yeah.
That is just spectacular.
And that's the cool thing is, you can, yes, it takes discipline. Yes, it takes work. Yes, it's not going to happen by accident. And it takes intentionality both in the gym and with your eating and recovery.
Let's go back to your face. If you have, let's see one more. If you got, I see a bunch.
But if you can invest 6 months, when you've been jacking around for 30 years,
for 30 years, right? That's the whole point. That's what I'm coming to understand. And so I think this is very spectacular.
This is a good one. This is Jason. He actually does online coaching or did online coaching with me. So I have some personal training studios in Atlanta, but some people need that trainer one-on-one, counting their reps, having that accountability. A lot of people, they just need a plan. They need a coach. They need some accountability and they need a community. So that's what I do with my, online body transformation university. He did that and it took him a little longer. It took him about a year. And, but you can see the physical changes, which is cool. But like Jason, the biggest things, he had major knee problems. So his knee pain went away.
So come back to me for a second.
Yeah.
Here's one of my questions. So what you get to experience, if you want to stop sharing, I don't know how to.
Oh yeah, I could do that.
Because one of the things that I think, as I'm sure I'm going to experience, I've experienced a couple of things that I didn't anticipate. And Joshua does not experience this. I thought I'm crying in the gym. And I kind of knew that might happen, but I have this vision that fat holds on to, or you store crazy emotions. Like I've had visions of things that I haven't thought about in decades. I'm like, I think that has to do with some of the reasons that I would overeat or that I stored fat overall. Do you have a thought on that?
I've heard that. I'm not an expert on, the emotional connection between, physical body and stored trauma and stuff. I do know that exists and have heard of it. But I also know, again, that when you're deprived, when you're getting ready for a contest, you're in a big calorie deficit typically to try to lose fat, and you're trying to build muscle, two completely opposing goals. And you're doing a bunch of cardio to increase that deficit. Like you're starving yourself to a degree. And I remember, I've obviously never had a menstrual cycle or a PMS, but I would have to imagine how I felt the last few weeks is the closest thing. I'm like a maniac. I'm like, oh my, I'm paranoid. I'm sad. I'm scared. I'm exhausted. I'm angry. And I remember the first time I did the contest, I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? Am I going to be like this forever? And as soon as the contest was over and I got a big pizza, I was like, okay, I'll feel good again.
Just me. I live with that. Joshua's he's a 7-time world champion. He's been in dozens of contests in the 7 years I've known him. Yeah, I'm already a maniac. This is fascinating to me. But I will tell you, there is a renewed sense, and I'm excited that I did this, and I said this to my team, and everyone will listen to me, that this is the last time I need to do this. I don't need to be out of shape anymore. I let the last 5 years since COVID really just, and I was, like I said, I was kind of lying to myself. I looked okay in my clothing. It wasn't all zipping right. And I was like, oh, I'll figure it out. And then I just set a moment and I made a decision. And I've never been quite as excited as I am. Talking to somebody else who's been through the contest is very exciting to share that, because no matter what happens, it's been interesting too, talking to trainers. They were all like, you're going to win this. I'm like, dude, let me share something with you. I win this by doing it. I win this by walking out on stage. I don't really care about anyone else at all. I don't care about the judge. I don't care about anyone. I really don't. Yeah. I care that I set out to do something. And I was in the gym last night and I said, you being here is the prize, because you weren't doing this. You weren't caring as much about your body, and you were talking a good game, and you talk a great game, but you were lying. And for those of you who are out there looking at those transformations, especially your man at 60, and I look at people who are carrying extra weight on their frame. My mother died at 70, so did my dad, but my mom was 260 pounds. She was diabetic. She had bad knees. How can you not go lift a 20-pound dumbbell and try carrying that all day long in a backpack? You can't. It's exhausting. So if you're carrying 5, 10, 15, 20, 40, 60, 100, most of you can't lift 100 pounds, yet your knees are walking around with that all day long. And so what I love about what you're doing, Russ, is that you're offering a solution to people. You're so personable. You've been through it yourself. If I get your book, what will I come to understand?
Yeah, if you get the book, which by the way, you can get it for free on the virtual copy or ebook copy at freenakedbook.com. That's the real URL. Be careful typing it in. And
three, like the number 3?
No, freenakedbook.com.
Free naked. You got that URL, you scoundrel.
I got the URL. Yeah, I always tell people to be careful typing it in or you might get something else. And but I wrote the book actually, man, it's been 10 years ago. And I have the hard copy, which is on Amazon, but I rewrote it a couple of years ago and updated it to the ebook version. So basically it's the original, but I have 2021 or 2022 updates because I'm always learning, and again, 48-year-old, 49-year-old Russ is very different than 39, 29. I'm sure 59, 69 will be different, and it continues to evolve and I continue to learn. So I've changed my, a lot of the things foundationally, I believe, are the same. Some things have changed. So I really just talk about, my journey, my story, which I kind of shared, and also, my philosophies, how I do what I do and how I've evolved. Like after I won that contest, Forbes, I lived that natural bodybuilding lifestyle a long time. And I was super strict, chicken and broccoli, protein shake every 2 hours. But again, I have probably undiagnosed eating disorder. So I denied myself all the fun foods. So on the weekends, I had my cheat day and I would gorge myself on everything I could get my hands on.
Mm-hmm.
And here, let's just see how crazy this is. During the weekends, I felt like crap because I was eating tons of crap, but my standard was I had to have shredded abs. So during the week, I would undereat dramatically and do tons of cardio to counteract that. But then I felt like crap during the week. So I looked great, but felt like crap all the time.
Oh,
and,
wow.
It was only probably 10, 11, 12 years ago when I met my wife and realized, okay, we're going to get married, have kids, especially when I started having kids. Like, I want to look great, but what more important to me, I want to feel good. I want to have energy. I want to be healthy, live a long time. And, I want to be able to walk my daughter down the aisle, dance with her, all that good stuff. And I want to be able to eat normal foods. Like, it's fun to eat. Again, I don't believe in like junking out all the time, but I want to have pizza, ice cream, cheeseburger sometimes. And I still want to have abs. So I became obsessed. Can you, we both know Chris, like he's got the book, Have It All, like in terms of your body and health, can you have it all? And the answer is yes, if you have a right plan, right consistency. And one of the most freeing things I did for myself, and everybody's different, like, but some people, and, I'll work with clients and I'll be like, again, on that eating plan, so for example, Brooke is a client. She just lost 3 chest sizes. Her and her husband, Sean, finished their first year with me. She said, Russ, if I have to give up my dessert, I'm not doing it. So I had a choice. I could say, well, cool, you can't do my program, or I could work with her and say, okay, cool, you can have your dessert, but here's how we're going to fit it in. And here's, what's going to work. And it worked for her. Other people, another client, Bob, and he, was drinking. This is my favorite. When I'm working people, the first, and this, hopefully they'll help some people, liquid calories, besides like a protein shake, liquid calories are the easy wins. So like he was drinking, 2 to 3 drinks a night, beer, wine, whatever. And I figured out the calories, got the calculator out, 150 calories per drink, which is probably on the low end, but being conservative. It ended up being, what he was drinking ended up being like 203,000 calories a year, right? There's 3,500 calories in a pound of fat. His goal is to lose 60 pounds. I was like, bro, if you just stop drinking the alcohol and we quit the nutrition conversation, you do nothing else, you're gonna lose 56 pounds in the next year. And I said, I'm not asking you to do that. What if you cut it in half? That's 26 pounds just in the alcohol. And that lit a fuse. He was like, no, I just need to quit drinking.
I think that was a brilliant way that you explained it to him as a math problem. That was really good, really smart.
I show people the math on drinking. Another guy was drinking 5 regular Cokes a day, 150 times 5. First of all, you got to always ask, just like you. Hey, show me your transformation, right? Don't just believe it. I drink 5 Cokes a day. We talking 12 ounce or 20 ounce or, or 2 liter. All right, 12 ounce. Cool. That's like what, 750 calories a day. I showed him the math and it was just insane, just pure sugar. And it was insane. But, some people, a lot of trainers, and I used to be this way, was, oh, that's terrible, blah, blah, blah. I get excited. Oh man, easy win. Easy win. What if we just cut it down to 2 Cokes a day?
I love, because that's the problem is if you deprive yourself. Hey, I'm looking at your website, by the way, brother, which looks beautiful. Go to freenakedbook.com. But I'm noticing a picture of Body by Jake, who was my mentor.
Oh, cool.
I hosted his, that's how I started my entire fitness selling career. I spent 5 years working with Jake, and I just talked to him for the first time in years on the phone.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I met him at a Dan Kennedy event. I think that was years ago. Yeah. And, I knew him as the infomercial guy, but man, he's a great businessman. I had a lot of respect for him.
I know how to pitch because trust me, I literally learned at his feet for 5 years. I sold 1,500 different fitness products. If you get a chance, guys, go to YouTube and type in Fit TV and Forbes Riley, and you'll see something you've never seen before. I helped launch, along with Jake, the concept of selling fitness on television. He sold that network to Fox for $500 million in 1993.
That's awesome.
I know, kind of a special, kind of crazy guy. I love your philosophy. You know what the big takeaway, because we're going to be wrapping up here in just a second, is that I took away that partly it's a math equation. You really do burn a certain amount. You burn 35, a pound is 3,500 calories, right? Which is, if you just look at it that way. And if I wanted you to hear what Russ said, he looked at that consumption, which is not always just food, but counted in the drinking, whether it's whether it's a regular Coke or regular soda, or your fruit juice is really up there, you guys. That orange juice in the morning will kill your sugar count, or whatever alcohol you're drinking. Do the math on it, and maybe don't cut it out totally. I've never heard a trainer ever say that, but cut it down and see what happens.
Yeah, and the cool thing is I let them decide. I present the information. And they're either like, Brooke, well, I got to have some, or they're like, oh my God, I just need to stop drinking this stuff. Cool. We know your answer. And either one's fine. Can I share one more thing because this is where I think most people go wrong?
Sure.
So, once you figure out you understand your calories, your macros, really just calories and protein, then it's like you said, it's math. It's not, oh man, I hope this works. Either you pick the right number and it's going to work, and you got to give it a few weeks. And how do you know if it works? Feeling good, energy's good, clothes are fitting better, and I'm strong. Awesome.
And take those photos. Those photos are so important.
Yeah, the photos are important. If nothing's changing, either your calories are too high, or more than likely you're missing some calories, either in the form of, oh, I forgot I drank this, or had some sauce or some butter. But here's the biggest trap people fall into. Let's say you're in a 500 calorie deficit, Monday through Friday, 5 days a week times 500 is 2,500 calories, right? You got 2 more days, Saturday, Sunday, you're on pace for 3,500 calories, losing a pound of fat, which is pretty awesome. But you've been good all week. Saturday, Sunday rolls around. I've been good. Let's celebrate. Let's go out to dinner. Let's have some drinks. And if you're a big eater like me, you can eat an extra 2,500 calories easy. Now you've undone everything you've done for the week. And you think I'm doing everything right. I'm killing myself. This doesn't work. I might as well give up. So right. I say transforming your body is a 7-day-a-week job. Doesn't mean you have to be perfect, but you can't do that weekday good, weekend bad, so to speak. Now, the cool thing is once you get to your ideal body, body fat percentage, you can do that 5 days on, 2 days, relax a little bit. But if you're trying to make a difference, it's a 7-day job. And that's where most people go wrong is they.
What's interesting is you're talking, that's a very worker mentality. I'm an entrepreneur who teaches on Sundays, who flies over the weekend.
Yeah.
And as much as I love my weekends, and once in a while I have to remember, it's Saturday, it's the weekend. I don't treat it any different than I do the rest of the week. And it's because I don't have a job. Every day can be a work day or a non-work day for me. That's an interesting concept.
Yeah, you and I are in the minority. Most people have that whole week, weekdays, they're doing stuff they hate that they have to do. Weekends, they get to do what they want to do, which is usually overeating, over drinking, overstimulating on, whatever.
Talk to me about your kids.
My kids are amazing. I have an 8-year-old son, Reed. And so my wife, we got married a little later in life. We wanted to have kids super quick. My first date with my wife, that's a whole nother story, how I met her. It's amazing. Maybe I'll tell you another time, or we'll tell you another time. But I told her on our first date, I wanted to have 3 kids. So we have 3 kids. We got married a little late in life. We're like, hopefully we can have kids. Got pregnant really quick with our son, said, well, we want to have 2. And, we got 2 for the price of 1. Like, okay, now we had to figure out how to stop. And so I have a 6-year-old twins, a boy and girl, Christian and Leighton. And they're awesome. They're all a little different. The boys are wild as can be. They love to wrestle with dad, and they're all into sports, baseball. You're not supposed to have a favorite, and I don't from a love standpoint, but I mean, my daughter's she's got me wrapped around her finger. She's awesome.
I will tell you, God blessed me with a boy and a girl as well, so I understand the vibe. I don't get to choose one. They're both, I'm in business with both of them. You know, they're 21 years old. They have had lots of adventures, you know, and it's funny because one of the things I will do at some point is write a parenting book, because as an older parent, you have a massive advantage. You've lived your life and you're no longer trying to prove something.
Yeah.
You remember how precious it is, and having that bond in that relationship, I wouldn't trade that for anything. So glad I didn't miss it, and good for you.
Yeah.
I'm sure
so
that
you had twins. You just have the two twins, right?
One and done. You do it right. I mean, I love that you wanted a third one, but I only got
if we
two
had
arms.
them, if we had the twins first, I think we might have stopped, even though I said 3, because then we might have gotten,
well,
4.
but as a caveat though, now that my kid worked with my kids, if I'd known it was going to be this cool, I might have had a whole bunch more.
Yeah.
You know, didn't necessarily know that. All right. I just love that you have been my guest. In about 3 minutes, I'm going to pop over to another broadcast. Before we leave, will you share with everybody your thought for the world?
Thought for the world. Wow. That's a deep question. I want to just think for a second.
I know it is.
You know, I always talk of what's coming in from my heart is, you know, my whole thing is I'm a, known as a fitness coach, body transformation coach. And I believe that putting your health first is so important. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and the biggest thing I have to help them realize is like health and fitness is not optional. Like if you had a piece of equipment, you know, in your company, $1 billion piece of equipment, would you run it 24/7, redline it, never do maintenance on it, and hope and pray it doesn't break down? The answer is of course not. But as a business owner, entrepreneur, or even the leader of your household, you're your most important asset. So it needs to be on your business plan. It's not optional. But really, and you know, not necessarily, I don't know another term, but I'm a life coach. You know, I attract people with the health because I believe if you don't have that, but I remember when I was quitting, I'll end with this. When I decided to quit my job as a CPA and go out and do this, I remember thinking I got interviewed by a local newspaper, and they're like, "Were you scared?" And I was like, "Yeah," but I was way more scared of waking up at 80 years old and wondering what if. And it just made me realize so many people go, like, we get this one life, and I don't know what the stat is, 1 in however many trillion actually get a life. And so many people just go through, you know, doing a job they hate. And again, there's nothing wrong with a job, but, you know, just living a life that, you know, doesn't fulfill them. So I actually created a mastermind earlier this year, and it's on, you know, we've created a good amount of, you know, investments and financial freedom. I believe in passive income to create freedom, but it's called Love Your Life Mastermind, because, you know, it's not the most important things, God, family, health, don't take money, but we live on an economic planet. And when you can create passive income, it gives you freedom to actually live a life you love. So I would just encourage people to know that you were put here on earth with a specific purpose, that God loves you, and that you deserve to live a life you love. And it may not happen overnight, but make a decision and start to take steps to move towards that. What a profound, beautiful radio show this has been today, podcast, wherever you're listening to this. Russ, thank you so very much. One more time, www.freenakedbook.com will get you into his world. We'll get you a downloadable version to learn more about him. And I just want to say thank you very, very much. You've been an amazing guest. Thank you. I want to thank you, Forbes. You know, a lot of people say I have a lot of, you know, good, positive energy. And one of my secrets to that is spending time with people who energize me. And you're one of those people. Have a massive amount of respect for you. So thank you. You got that. I also, as I have to finish up in 15 seconds, I saw a picture of Chris Crone on stage. You need to send that to me privately. I need to just check that one out. Oh, okay. I'll send you that. Yeah. You're listening to